$202.90. That's what comes out of your Social Security check every single month in 2026. If you're on Medicare, before you ever see the money, most people just accept it. They shouldn't. There are 3 real programs, all active right now, that can put that money back in your pocket, cover part of your energy bill, or hand you a second monthly check on top of Social Security. Not loans, not a rebate you pay back later. Money you already qualify for, and most people never claim. Here's what's coming. First, the program that can wipe out that Medicare premium entirely, and in some cases your deductibles too. Second, a federal program that pays toward your heating and cooling bill, sometimes straight to the utility company, so you never touch the cash. Third, and this is the one people get wrong the most, a separate monthly check you can receive even if you're already getting Social Security. I'll give you the real 2026 income numbers for each one, not some vague low-income guess. I'll walk through the exact reasons people wrongly count themselves out of each one. And I'll warn you about the one scam that follows this exact kind of money around. I don't sell anything on this channel. I'm not going to ask you for your bank number. I just go through what these programs actually say in plain English, so you can decide for yourself whether to make the call. So why haven't you heard about this? Simple. These are apply first programs. Nobody at Medicare or Social Security is combing through your file to say, hey, you qualify for this, let's sign you up. That job doesn't exist. You have to ask. And the research backs up just how many people never do. Looking at Medicare Savings Program enrollment nationally, only about 57% of the people who actually qualify are signed up. That means something close to 3 million older Americans who qualify for help with their Medicare costs are leaving it on the table, according to research from the National Council on Aging. Not because they don't need it, because nobody told them or they assumed the number would be too low for them to qualify. Let's go through all 3. I want you to actually check your own numbers before you rule yourself out. And I'm going to walk through the specific reasons people talk themselves out of each one, because those reasons are almost always wrong. Program 1. It's called a Medicare Savings Program, and it's run through your state, funded jointly with Medicaid. Here's what it actually does. Your state pays your Medicare Part B premium for you, not a discount, paid in full. That premium is $202.90 a month this year. Over a full year, that's just over $2,430 coming straight out of your Social Security deposit before it ever hits your account. If your state picks that up, your monthly check goes up by that same amount every single month for as long as you qualify. And there's more than one version of this. The most generous tier doesn't stop at the premium. It also covers your Medicare deductibles and your copays. So a doctor's visit doesn't turn into a surprise bill in your mailbox 2 weeks later. The other tiers, for slightly higher incomes, cover the premium only. But every single tier puts real money back into your check. Now here's where people talk themselves out of it before they even ask. The income limits are higher than most people guess, and they went up again this year with the cost of living adjustment. For the most generous tier, a single person can make close to $1,350 a month and still qualify. For a married couple, it's up around $1,824. The middle tier goes up to around $1,616 for one person, $2,184 for a couple. And the tier that covers just the premium reaches even higher, about $1,816 for a single person, $2,455 for a couple. These numbers shift a little by state, so treat them as the federal baseline, not the last word. Picture somebody living on a modest pension and a Social Security check who's never once looked into this because they figured programs like this were for somebody worse off. That's the exact profile that qualifies most often. It isn't about being destitute. It's about being on a fixed income, full stop. Here's an objection I hear a lot. I have a small pension too, so I probably make too much. Maybe. Or maybe not a pension gets counted, sure. But the limit is higher than most people assume, and the only way to know is to let the application do the math instead of doing it yourself at the kitchen table. Another one. I applied years ago and got turned down. That decision is old news. The line moves almost every year with the cost of living adjustment, which means somebody who missed the cutoff by a little in a past year can be sitting comfortably inside it now without anything else in their life changing. How you apply? Call your state Medicaid office or call your local state health insurance assistance program people. Just call it SHIP. It's a free counseling service built exactly for this. You don't need to know which tier you fall into. You say, I'm on Medicare, I'm on a fixed income, and I want to know if I qualify for a Medicare Savings Program. That's the whole opening line. They take it from there. It is free to apply every single time. Quick warning, because I'd be doing you a disservice if I skip this. Anytime there's real government money attached to a phone call, scammers show up close behind it, and they've gotten good at sounding official. Here's the pattern. Almost every version of this scam follows. Somebody calls, sometimes with caller ID that looks like a real government number, and says they're from Medicare or Social Security. They tell you there's a benefit or a refund waiting, but it expires today or this hour or in the next 10 minutes. That manufactured urgency is to tell a real government program does not have a countdown clock. Then they ask for something they never actually need. Your full Social Security number, your bank account and routing number, a gift card, or a one-time code that just texted to your phone. The moment somebody on the phone asks for that to release money to you, the call is not real, no matter how official they sound or how much they already seem to know about you. The rule that protects you is simple, and it never changes. Medicare and Social Security do not call you out of nowhere to hand you a benefit. You call them using a number you looked up yourself, never a number the caller gives you. If you're ever unsure, hang up, breathe, and call your state Medicaid office or SHIP directly to check whether the call was legitimate. It costs you nothing to be careful. Program 2 is about the bill. A lot of you dread twice a year, heating in the winter, cooling in the summer. It's a federal program called the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, LIHEAP for short, run state by state. It typically pays somewhere between $200 and $2,000 toward your energy bill, depending on your household size, your income, and where you live. The average household that gets it receives around $500. In most states, that payment goes straight to your utility company. You never touch the check, and it never shows up as income against you anywhere else. Here's the part people miss. This isn't just a winter program. It covers air conditioning too. And for an older adult in a heat wave, that's not a comfort item. It's a safety issue. Most states also have an emergency or crisis fund on top of the regular benefit for a shutoff notice or a furnace that just died on you. Picture a household living on 2 fixed incomes, rationing the thermostat every January because the gas bill always spikes, and never once applying because they figured this kind of help was charity and charity was for somebody else. That mindset is the single biggest reason this program goes underused. It isn't charity. It's federal funding set aside specifically for households in exactly that position. 2 objections I hear constantly. I rent, so this can't be for me. Renters can qualify in most states as long as they're responsible for paying for heating or cooling in some form. Don't assume homeownership is a requirement. And my bill isn't that high, so it's probably not worth applying. Even a partial payment toward the bill is money you weren't going to have otherwise, and the crisis fund exists for exactly the month your bill spikes unexpectedly. One honest caveat. This program runs on a fixed pot of money each year. About $4 billion gets split across the whole country for this fiscal year, and once a state share runs out, that's it until the next funding cycle. States generally serve their most vulnerable households first, and a senior on a fixed income usually sits near the top of that list. But you have to actually be in the system to be considered, and that means applying before the money runs dry, not after the first cold snap of the year. How you apply. Call your state's Energy Assistance Office or just dial 211. In most of the country, that's a free number that connects you straight to whoever handles this locally. It's free to apply, and nobody legitimate will ever ask you to pay a fee to sign up. Program 3, and for some of you, this is the biggest one. It's called Supplemental Security Income, SSI. And I need you to hold 2 things apart in your head because this is exactly where people get it wrong. Social Security retirement is the check you earn by working. SSI is a completely separate federal program for people 65 or older or disabled who are living on a limited income with limited savings. Here's the mistake that costs people the most money. A lot of folks assume that because they already get a Social Security check, they can't also get SSI. That's simply not true. If your Social Security check is modest, you can often receive SSI on top of it. The cost of living adjustment pushed these numbers up again this year. The most a single person can receive from SSI now is around $994 a month. For a couple, it's just under $1,491. If you already have some Social Security coming in, your SSI amount is usually reduced to account for that, but a partial check is still real money month after month, and it adds up to real dollars over a year. This program does look at your savings and resources, but two things most people assume count against them actually don't. The home you live in generally isn't counted. Neither is your car in most cases, so don't rule yourself out just because you own your house. Think about somebody who worked a full career, gets a small pension and a modest Social Security check, and has always assumed SSI was welfare, something for people who never worked a day in their life. That assumption alone keeps a lot of eligible people from ever picking up the phone. SSI isn't means tested against your work history. It's means tested against your current income and resources, which is a completely different question, and a career of hard work doesn't disqualify you from it. Another objection: I have a few $1,000s saved, so I must be over the limit. The resource limits are tighter here than on the other two programs. That's true, but the home and car exclusions mean a lot of people have more room than they think, and the only way to know for certain is to let Social Security run the actual numbers instead of guessing at your own kitchen table. How you apply: directly through the Social Security Administration, online, by phone, or at your local office. It's free every step of the way. Nobody legitimate will ever ask you to pay to file this application for you. Here's why I'm telling you this now instead of letting it sit for another year. Every one of these three programs moved this year. The cost of living adjustment pushed the Medicare premium up, but it also pushed the income limits up right alongside it, and it raised the SSI payment amount too. When those numbers move together, the line for who qualifies moves with them. That means somebody who checked 2 or 3 years ago got told they were $50 a month over the limit and gave up. That same person might be sitting comfortably under the new line this year without anything else in their life changing at all. Nobody is going to call and tell you the door opened. The adjustment happens quietly, once a year, and the only way you find out it affects you is by checking again. Let's put all three side by side for a second, because the individual numbers are one thing, but stacked together they mean more. The Medicare Savings Program, at its most generous tier, is worth over $2,400 a year straight back into your Social Security check, plus your deductibles and copays disappearing on top of that. The energy program is worth anywhere from a couple hundred to a couple $1,000s a year paid straight to your utility. And SSI, for the right person, is worth up to just under $12,000 a year, and even a partial check is still thousands. Add those up, and for some of you, this isn't pocket change. It's the difference between a tight month and a month where you can actually breathe. And the honest truth is that the people who end up collecting all three aren't smarter than anybody else, and they didn't earn it any more than you have. They just made the phone calls. That's the entire difference. None of these three programs is going to come find you. They're built to pay the people who ask and nobody else. That's the whole system, and it's a little unfair, honestly, but it also means the only thing standing between you and this money is one phone call. If this helped you see something you didn't know was there, do one thing for me. Send it to somebody in your life who's 65 or older, especially if they're the type to assume none of this applies to them. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you catch the next one.